Okay, back to some randoms. We got 20 random shows left. So let's see what we roll. 2. Pretty high. Reign of the Seven Spellblades. Okay, this was one of the more hyped ones going into the season, I believe. I'm not sure what the general consensus was coming out, but let's give it a go. Okay. What the fuck was that? I got I think 10 minutes into the first episode of Reign of the Seven Spellblades. What the fuck was that? That was insane. Who was in charge of writing? Fire them. What the fuck? Not since G Gundam a month ago have I been this fucking confused. Actually, in terms of real time, I think it was less than a month ago actually that I watched G Gundam. Not G Gundam. What am I saying? G Recco. That's two completely different things. Silly me. Anime names, they are a thing. Right. This shitty fantasy anime. What the fuck? So, it opens on this unsettling hair animation. It's a extreme close-up, and it's like a character and his hair is waving in the wind, but I think they made his hair CG-ish or something, but his face was just normal animation. Something about the way his hair moved looks so fucking weird. And this show is using CG in weird ways. There's a either flashback or flash forward fight where the camera is rotating around, and it's nauseating and unpleasant. There are some not great CG spell effects. But then other times there's some really cool animation, like the parade of the different magical beasts. There's some really cool cuts in that. So, very sporadic production. Also, there was this, after the hair shot, it cut to a wide, and it hurt my eyes how bright and garish the colors were. It was bad. It is not quite Technicolor vomit. It was more like neon vomit. But you know what? I might have been able to stomach the weird-ass fucking visuals for this show. Actually, no, I couldn't have, because the character designs are generic as fuck, and I hate them. But the writing is so bizarre and ADHD-brained and not focused in any way. The samurai girl infuriates me more than endears me. Most of these characters, especially her, act like fucking space aliens. Except for the two people who randomly start having a political debate over the sentience of trolls. The girl is right, by the way, but I'm gonna go ahead and assume, based on this opening scene, that the anime is going to not frame it that way as it goes along. Maybe it does. Maybe it's a little more progressive than I think it is. I expect hardcore jingoism from this genre, so I'm not gonna bet on it. Not that I'm gonna see it anyway, because this show is infuriating to watch, and I don't want to watch anymore. In the interest of full disclosure, for context, this was, I've tried watching this after just binging Precure Splash Star for 4 days straight. So perhaps that just watching good anime for a very long time spoiled me. In any case, Reign of the Seven Spellblades off the list. Let's roll again. What do we have? 19 left. Let's see what we get next. 14. Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts. I think I've actually heard that this one's like semi-popular, maybe? I haven't heard anyone talk about it, but I guess I'll give it a shot. If I had a nickel for every anime where the main appeal was Kana Hanazawa playing a white-haired anime girl, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. And it's even weirder that My Neighbor Seki-kun is the better of the two. So I got 5 episodes into The Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, which is a lot more than I expected. Probably 5 times as many episodes as I expected to get into it. It's fine. It's totally passable, like a decent 6. But there's really not a lot that's like hooking me per se outside of Kana Hanazawa, which this is a really good this anime is a really good example of just how fucking good at her job she is. Like, and just why Hanakana has been so successful, because her voice is just so pleasant to listen to. It is so enrapturing and mellowing and heartwarming. It just has it. I understand why she has such a following. She is just doing her Hanakana voice in this. It's not a particularly, like, by her standards, it's not an incredible performance, but just the fact that she has that voice was the best part of this show. And it's not to say that the other parts were bad, really. It's just all the other parts were kind of average. The setup was pretty... I will say the first episode was probably the best episode in terms of, like, character building and, like, setting up the motivations for all these characters. Why the princess... what's her name? Sarafi? Acts the way that she does. And I actually do have to give this show credit for, like, not over-explaining everything. Like, it did it once in, like, episode 4, I think. But outside of that, it's like, it actually kind of follows a little bit of a show don't tell kind of thing, where it's just like, you can see through character expressions what, like, the way that they react to things, what they're thinking, like what that statement implies, so on and so forth. It's not an over-explained kind of show, which is always something that I'm hesitant to drop, because it's kind of rare in anime. But everything outside of that, those things, is just kind of average. The world isn't particularly interesting. The animation's just pretty standard. It's a JC Staff show. Although there were some really wonky cuts in like the last episode that I watched. Like, there's a shot in episode 5 where the king is laying her down on the bed, and it just looks so weird and awkward. Not good. And I will say, I like the idea behind the Phoenix character of, like, because he is immortal, he is just useful as, like, a meat shield. He's just, like, he was used as a meat shield in previous lives, and so he just doesn't want to fight anymore, and then the episode kind of rushes that conclusion by just him being drawn to Sarafi and her warm and bubbly nature. And I do like that Sarafi's just kind of a goofball. But I'm just not hooked, I guess, which is weird to say that
considering that I got 5 episodes in. I will say I was hooked after the first episode, but it didn't really follow up, I guess. There's really not a lot here that's getting me to stick around outside of Hanakana.
Alright. Sacrificial Princess is off the list. Down to 18 shows now. Let's see which one we get next. 9. Atelier Ryza. This is a adaptation of a video game. The only thing I know about this is the one clip of Kiara looking at the main character's ass during one of her streams. So let's see if the anime's good.
If by some crazy random happenstance I become dictator of the world, my first decree will be to ban double-length opening episodes of anime. We don't fucking need it. Stop doing it. Enough. Didn't matter anyway, because I only got like 6 minutes into this show. It is a black hole of interest. Just not engaging or interesting in any way whatsoever. It is so rote and explanatory and expository. The main character is so fucking boring. All of the characters are so fucking boring. It's nothing. It is all like, this is, you can tell that it's an adaptation of a video game. It's just so, like, I used to like cheat with my seasonal wrap-up show stuff, and I didn't include video game adaptations for a while, unless I was like really interested in the source material. But then Cyberpunk Edge Runners happened, and so I was like, well, I gotta get rid of that rule and include them now. And I kind of regret that. Because this is what most of them are like. If it's not Pokemon, and it's not a visual novel, and it's not a video game I already like, and it's not Cyberpunk Edge Runners, it's just so boring and unengaging. Because the people who are translating the video game elements to the world of anime don't seem to understand what makes a good anime, what makes a show compelling, as opposed to what makes a video game compelling. I'm just so fucking bored by this show. Let's move on.
Alright. Ryza coming off the list. Let's roll again, and we're gonna get 14. Ooku. This is a Netflix one. I think it might be a Josei series. Let's test it out.
Damn, I got bait and switched so hard by that first episode. And not in a good way. I almost made it through the second episode of Ooku, the Inner Chambers, before checking the wiki. That will be relevant in a little bit. But this was another show with an overly long first episode. I think it was actually like an hour and 15 minutes. So it's like, that's like that's 3 full episodes, basically. I don't think it needed to be in that whole block of hour 15. Especially since this is a Netflix release, so you're gonna binge it all anyway. But I will admit that it was better paced than other double-length episodes I've seen before. Or I guess this would be a triple-length one. Not as good as the Oshinoko opening episode, but it was good. I liked the characters. I liked where the story was going, the really interesting setting. And then it did a Rakugo Shinju, where that first episode is just a primer for a flashback. And that's what I mean when I say I dropped it after I checked the wiki, because all of the episodes, based on what the episode summaries that I read, are flashbacks. And here's the thing. The main, like, the present day cast, really solid. I found all of them pretty endearing. It's like Yoshi. I forget what the current Shogun is in the present day one. I forgot what her name is, but she's really interesting in like a reform-minded kind of way. Not super nuanced, but the bluntness of her character is pretty interesting. I really liked the arc with Mizuno. That whole journey that he went on. And then the flashback episodes started, and I found all the flashback characters to be incredibly boring. They are not interesting or fun. And I was much... Okay, so if you haven't heard of the show, it's about a plague sweeping through, like, the era of the Tokugawa show, like the... I don't know what period it is, but I'm assuming it's like in the 1700s, 1600s, somewhere around there. A plague sweeps through Japan and kills off, like, a huge portion of the male population. And so it's basically, like, society inverts and women become the dominant members of society. At first, it didn't seem like a lot was different. And it just seemed like women were doing men things and men were doing women things. But as the episode went on, you gradually start to saw, like, them start to question, like, certain practices. Like, why, like, see, I don't understand enough about, like, ancient Japanese culture to understand the significance of it, but, like, why male names were used for certain things, even though, like, most of to address or name women or something. And it was basically, like, questioning why certain practices exist. And the answer is because they come from a gendered perspective. Even though they're not, like, smart things to do, they're still done anyway because it has become tradition because of gendered practices over a long period of time. And I was looking forward to the current Shogun, like, going through a bunch of things like that and going, nope, getting rid of that, getting rid of this, getting rid of that, that's stupid, why is this here, get rid of that. That's what I was hoping the show was going to be, and, like, the challenges that she faced doing that. But nope. We're going to flash back to when this plague actually started and the formation of this Ooku, the inner chamber, where the female shogun has, like, hundreds of men at her disposal. Basically like a brothel, but with men. And I guess, I don't know, man. I'm just not interested in how this starts, like how this becomes a thing. Because, like, they pretty easily established, like, what the reasoning for why this society inverts. Most of the men die off, therefore men become a commodity to be used by women, and women start making up the majority of the workforce and the majority of the governing force, therefore women come into power. I don't think you need any more explanation than that. You don't, or rather, you don't need any more backstory than that. Like, Because, like, I was interested in the current day cast, not the past day cast. Especially, like, this monk character that they brought in. I just found him to be horribly uninteresting. Not a fan at all. It's just... Yeah, just not totally uninterested in the idea that that's where the story's going to go. So I'm jumping ship there. Even though, like, it's decent. Like, the first episode was decently paced for being triple length. It's shot well. It's animated decently. It's not an incredible production, and there's not a lot of interesting cinematography. It's actually pretty bland, but it is competent, and it's very, like, good at being, like, competent and snappy and, like, quick paced in terms of, like, editing and the way scenes are paced and so on and so forth. I will say, though, since this is a Netflix, like, batch release, if you're gonna have a first episode that is, like, streaming service exclusive, and one of the main plot points of that episode is that men are used as sex objects often in this new world that's come up, and, like, they are basically being, like, handled like women at brothels, and you're going to have multiple instances of fucking in the show, why not show the fucking? Like, it's just fade to black. Like, we're on, like, fucking daytime TV or something. You're on Netflix, man. Show some titty. Show some ass. Like, disappointed. Yeah. That's a word for this. I'm disappointed.
Alright. Ooku is off the list. Let's re-roll. See what we get. Crank this down. 6. My Happy Marriage. Okay, I've heard not great things about this one. I heard this one was not good at what it was trying to do, but let's give it a shot.
I like to put on this air that, like, every genre is equal in my eyes. Like, every show has a chance of hooking me. But if I had, as of late, if I had to pick one thing that I'm just fucking sick of, it's not isekai, by the way. I have the bell because it's a joke. But the thing that I am sick of is period dramas about arranged marriages. Because I have seen one. I don't know which one that one was. And I haven't seen anything in that specific subgenre that's different. And it's like, I'm just sick of it. And this show is like the quintessential example of why I'm sick of it. Like, our main character, what's her name, Mio? I got half an episode in. She has, like, no interesting characterization whatsoever outside of she is a servant who tries to, like, be quiet and keep to herself. And also, she has a boy that she has a crush on. I know nothing about this character. Half an episode into the anime, where she is the main character. And so, like, why do I care about things that happen to her? Like, why do I care that she has an evil stepsister? Why do I care that she is being, like, neglected by her family? Like, those are bad things that happen to people, but why should I care about this specific person in this specific piece of art? Like, in real life, yeah, you should care that that happens to people regardless of who they are as people. Like, regardless of what their specific character makeup is. But when you're in fiction, when you're creating a story for people to enjoy, you gotta go a little further than that. Also, they bring her in to... like, the inciting incident of the show is she's going to get married off to someone else. But they lead it in with... Oh, no. Knocked my remote on the floor. Fuck it. They lead it in by being like, hey, that guy you have a crush on, he's gonna marry your evil stepsister. So you're getting NTR'd. Not that the family knew that or whatever, aside from this evil stepsister, probably. But it's like, that wasn't information that she needed. That's not information that Mio needed in that scene. Like, she's getting called in for her dad to say, we're gonna marry you off to this family. So they didn't need that other part other than to NTR the audience. And it's like, that annoyed me so much. Like, that was the only reason that was there. It doesn't make sense for her to find out in that scene otherwise. Because they make a big fucking deal about it, too. Like, they do, like, and the man, and the girl that Koji is going to marry is that bitch. Not you. So annoying. Yeah. Yeah, I would never be able to make it through this show. I didn't even make it through the first episode. It looks decent. It's not incredible looking, but, like, it's got decent character designs. They're polished. All the color design is pretty drab, but I think that's supposed to reflect her, like, inner melancholy. But I don't care. We're moving on.
Alright, My Happy Marriage. Off the list. Back to randoms. What do we get? It's going to be 15. Phoenix, Eden 17. Okay, this is the retelling of Osamu Tezuka's Phoenix, but it's only 4 episodes, I think? Or maybe it's a reimagining? Who knows? Let's find out.
I tell you what, translating Tezuka to the modern day is not an easy task. And I don't think this show was up for it. I think I got about halfway through the first episode of Phoenix, Eden 17. I have read a lot of Tezuka, actually. Probably a lot more than the average anime fan. It's not like a brag or anything. It's just like, I find his writing fascinating even when I don't like it, which is a lot more often than I would hope. I've kind of lost track of how many Tezuka things I've read already, but at this point I do have a pretty good idea of how Tezuka writes things. And general idea is, especially with his sci-fi stories and, like, supernatural stories, is weird future sci-fi concept filtered through timeless human drama. And a lot of times when you're reading Tezuka, that takes a lot of explaining. It takes a lot of exposition, which an adaptation, a modern adaptation, could do a lot, could rearrange to make less bloated. So I was expecting something like that. I wasn't expecting them to just cut most of the exposition entirely, which made this very confusing. Like, we don't get an answer. Like, we might get an answer later, but like, we don't know. As of where I stopped watching, it has not explained how two random people just got in a rocket with a bunch of terraforming gear, landed on a habitable planet that for some reason no one else has tried to inhabit before, and started a life there. Like, that's where, like, the world-building exposition stuff of Tezuka would kick in. Like, there would be, like, almost to the point of being annoyingly incessant about it, Tezuka would explain all of those things. And you can slim some of that down for an anime adaptation, but if you cut it entirely, it makes the story make no goddamn sense. Also, like, this show had a real Japan Sinks 2020 moment. Like, in Japan Sinks 2020, the dad gets blown up by a landmine while trying to find potatoes. And in this show, the dad gets crushed by mining equipment while trying to mine for water because, shocker, if you just drill into the earth or into a planet willy-nilly, it might make the landscape unstable. Shocking. So that was wild. But what really annoyed me about this show is that it, like, completely cuts out his wife's grieving process after he dies. We get no emotion from her whatsoever about losing her husband. So that sucked. And so now I can't really trust this show to handle weighty emotions later on. Which is unfortunate. And it's especially unfortunate because the show actually looks pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the color design and the CG, but like the character design, well, actually no, the character designs are real hit and miss, but like the animation's super fluid and it's like very polished looking. If the story didn't chop its own limbs off, it might have been entertaining, but so far it's not.
Alright. Phoenix, Eden 17 off the list. We're going to do one more random before we jump to our end caps. So let's see what that random is. It's going to be 14. Bang Dream, it's MyGO. Heard a lot of people talking about this one. I have basically no experience with Bang Dream whatsoever, so let's dive in.
Yeah, sorry, did not vibe with that one at all. I got through the first episode of Bang Dream, it's MyGO. It's not that I didn't vibe with it at all. There are some things that I did appreciate about it. The character writing is actually really good. It's very measured, very, detailed in its, like, the way it's plotting all these characters out, but it also has like they also feel like interesting people too, as opposed to just kind of very dry character writing. But on the whole, I didn't feel particularly hooked by anything. Like, I could passively watch this, but there's nothing that makes me go like, I need to watch more of this. And I think that's more so on the production end of things, but not in the ways that you think. Like, this is a CG show, like a full CG show, and it's by Sans again, which is not the... I like them more than Polygon Pictures, let's put it that way. That's not a high bar, but I do like them, typically like their stuff more than a lot of other full CG studios. This is the studio that did Bubuki Buranki, and I'm sure they've done some other stuff since then. What was that, 2017? Probably? Geez, that was a while ago. Might have been 2016, actually. I don't remember. But, yeah, they know how to use color a little bit more than Polygon Pictures. And production's real hit and miss for me on this one. Like, sometimes I'll just get like immersed in it and it'll just look like normal, and then it'll like do something like drastic or eye-catching, and it will be just like janky and weird looking, and I'm like, oh, you tried too hard there. And there's something about the hair that throws me off too. Like, the way that the hair moves just doesn't look right for some reason. I can't tell exactly what it is, but it just doesn't look right. But that's not like my biggest issue with the production, though. My biggest issue with the production on the production end is that I can't stand Chihaya's voice actress. Like, it's a really bad performance for me. And I was like, this has to be a new voice actress. It has to be. And it turns out it was. This is her first role. I forgot what her name is, but she is not doing well. I do not like her voice at all. It is annoying and just off-putting 100% of the time. It doesn't fit with the lines that she's saying. It doesn't fit with the emotions she's trying to express. Her range of emotion is so narrow. Like, she can't really... She's... Like, the scene at the very end of the first episode, she should have been displaying a lot more vocal range than she did. And it's just not good. She's really not putting on a good performance in this show. So with her as one of, like, probably the main character, it looks like, yeah, I would not be able to make it through this show with that much bad acting. Which is a shame, because I like her as a character. Like, I like that she's a little bit of an attention whore, kinda. And I like Rock Girl. I like the autistic Rock Girl. She's fun. And the way that she's just kind of down on herself for stuff that's probably not within her control made me want to explore her character more, but just the way the show looks and the way it sounds makes me not want to continue it. And we didn't even have a song in the first episode. This is a music show, and there was no song in the first episode, aside from, like, a little bit of a piano piece. What the heck? Yeah, I know this show is very beloved from this season, but I'm just not digging it.
Alright. Bang Dream off the list. I also completely forgot about the UFO OVA. I wasn't sure what season I was going to put it in for some reason, and I just forgot it was in the summer season. So for when we get back to the randoms, that'll be in there now. But for right now, we're going to jump to our end caps for Bungo Stray Dogs Season 5. It's actually going to be Seasons 4 and 5 because I didn't watch Season 4 yet either. So I've been slowly catching up on the series over like the past 6 months amongst all the other stuff. So let's dive into the new stuff. All right, just finished all of Bungo Stray Dogs Seasons 4 and 5. Both of those aired this year, or 2023, I believe. I have been slowly catching up on Bungo Stray Dogs since I heard that these seasons were a step above. And man, they were right. These were something else. Like, for the most part, like the seasons 1 through 3 of Bungo Stray Dogs, I had been very hit and miss for me. Like the first season, I thought was pretty decent. I liked the fun edginess of it. Season 2 and 3 were both bogged down by here's my what is apparently a hot take about this franchise is I do not give a shit about the Dazai flashbacks at all. I just don't. Like, I appreciate them for what they set up in the present day story, but as stories themselves, I found them incredibly boring and uninteresting, especially the one in season 2, which is, was originally where I had originally dropped Bungo Stray Dogs during that, like either during that flashback or right at the end of that flashback, because I just did not care for it at all. But this time I powered through to get back to the present day stuff. Man, it was worth it. Like the season 4 flashback was like the first big flashback arc of the series that I actually liked. Mostly because this series figured out that Rampo is the best character in the show. And every time he is on screen, it makes things 10 times better. So they put him in way more of the series this time. Thank you. Thank you for that. He is so incredibly fun and charismatic and cocky and just flamboyantly arrogant and fun. Love him. And the mysteries that he solves are actually like really fun, because it's like you get the feel with the again, I have mentioned in the past that I'm not super into mystery series, and so I don't have a ton of experience with them, but with the way that Rampo is written, it makes you feel like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Instead of like, well, there's no way I could have thought of that. Like it makes you think that you could have done it yourself. And sometimes I did do it myself. Sometimes I did like figure it out just before Rampo stated it. So I really enjoyed a lot of the mystery stuff there, and also all of the big character moments in these seasons. Like season 4 had Yosano's flashback about the basic her being forced to create essentially an immortal army, and just the trauma and PTSD that comes with that. That was a banger episode. I don't know if that or the final episode of season 5 are my favorites from this season. I'm leaning more towards the finale of season 5 just because Genichiro is so fucking good. Like recently, when I'm recording this, the R Anime Awards put out their like nominees for like their best of the year, whatever, and
I'm pretty sure Genichiro was on the list. And I was like, well, it's a good thing I'm catching up on Bungo Stray Dogs right now, so I can figure out why this guy is so why this guy got nominated. And man, that was a hell of a character right there. Just the way this supreme behind the scenes manipulator and in front of the scenes manipulator, just this all-encompassing badass mastermind leading everybody in 72 different directions at once. And also his power is basically Kira from JoJo. This like time manipulation thing. I know there are other time manipulation powers in existence, but for some reason it just made me, it's smacked me of Kira influence for some reason. Maybe because Bungo Stray Dogs in general, the power system is very JoJo-like. Although most power systems now are JoJo-like, to be honest. But I don't know. It struck me as Kira, but much nobler in his cause, where it's like we got the ultimate conundrum of do you stop what? Well, it's not really a conundrum because no one really finds out what he's trying to do until the very end, when it's too late to stop him, or too late to stop before you defeat him. But this was a very fun and interesting reimagining of the classic, like, become a dictator to stop all wars concept. Like, it was I'm having trouble putting it into words for some reason now, but just the way that it was presented in this, I will admit, at the end, it felt like it was trying to make it feel like a twist. Maybe that was his ultimate end goal, aside from just taking over the world. But, like, it seemed like that was the only logical place it could go for the way that this character was written. So when they, like, phrased it as, like, a twist at the end, I'm like, was that supposed to be a twist? Either way, the way that this noble, sort of noble way that he purports himself with as this soldier who has been completely, like, corrupted by the battlefield, like, is basically forced to live in his own world, essentially, where he has, like, all of his friends don't really understand him anymore, because it's a very good representation of war, I guess. When you come back from the war and you're just different, and you think different. And so stopping war at whatever cost sounds pretty noble. And, like, just the complete dissolution of the state. Yeah, as someone who's been listening to a lot of Cool Zone Media podcasts lately, I was kind of like, no, yeah, that sounds like it might work. And, like, him comparing it to the Warring States period of Japan kind of drove home the point of, like, for there to be war, there has to be an us and a them. But if it's just we, then there can't be war. So, wishful thinking on a state level, I guess. I think there will always be an us and a them. But personally, I think if we eliminated the state apparatus, I think it would be a lot harder to go to war in general if we just forced people, or if people were forced to just be communal. Not necessarily forced, but just like, now we're getting on a tangent about anarchism, but I do like that they phrase it as the reason that he lost and the reason that his ideals lost is because he wasn't creating a stateless society. He was creating a one-state society. So if the state, in his own words, if the state is just the manifestation of the need to use violence, then that won't go away under a one-state world. It'll just be him with all the power to use violence. And I doubt that he would not have to use that. So I like that they framed it as like, no, this stateless solution, it could work. It's just that that's not ultimately what he was trying to achieve. What he was trying to, he was just going about it the wrong way. And so it made it didn't like completely discount his philosophical argument in the end. So that, like, I was very afraid that that's where it was going, but it ended up not doing that. So I really appreciate that from just this incredibly charismatic and engaging character to follow. The way that he builds the relationships with the people around him, his past with the detective agency president, man, it was so good. And his ultimate defeat at the end got me tearing up a bit, especially when they brought back Teriko at the very end, this one of the hunting dogs, to be the final executioner for him, and it was just like, oh, that hurts for some reason. Also, I love the hunt, all the new characters that were introduced in these seasons. I love Teriko. As soon as she was on screen, I was like, I want her to do unspeakable things to me. This show has a really good habit of drawing redheads with really fun personalities that I really like. We got more. Speaking of which, we got more Lucy this season, so that was fun. She's always a blast for this series. I forget what his name is. The Port Mafia guy, who is or the hunting dog who is infiltrating the Port Mafia, but ended up siding with the Port Mafia at the end. Really liked him and his character arc, how he related to Yosano and all of the characters involved in this. It was one thing where it was like, one of my minor like plot contrivance kind of gripes with this is like, for the most part, like the reality writing thing, like, the way that Rampo and everyone else sort of breaks past that, most of the time makes sense. Like when the one guy I just mentioned, the Port Mafia guy, like, the reason that he is able to break free from the reality rewrite thing, where it's like all law enforcement will refuse to be swayed by any evidence that the detective agency is innocent. Like, they get around that by saying, like, oh, I'm not really a hunting dog anymore. I am more aligned with the Port Mafia. So I liked that reasoning for it. But then at one point they just go like, and 1/3 of cops have decided to side with the detective agency. I'm like, how? Is it just through sheer will? There were a few sheer will moments in this, but that one in particular just kind of stood out to me as being like, I don't know about that one. Also, I will say season 5 moved really fucking fast. I feel like those early episodes, like the first like 6-ish episodes, could have been expounded a little bit more, because it's just like rushing through plot points left and right. All of a sudden there's a fucking vampire army showing up, and like, it's all really cool stuff. I felt like it needed just a little bit more development, but you know what? It kept the pacing really fucking quick and kept me really engaged, I guess, so I really liked that. I also like that we're just getting these piecemeal world building elements. Like, we're finding out about this war that I'm pretty sure was mentioned in previous seasons, but now we get a little bit more of like,
what was actually going on in that war, the Gifted War, whatever. We find out about these like the 10 calamities or whatever, and one of them was like the vampire plague, which was really fun. By the way, casting Kenjiro Suda as Bram Stoker, fucking phenomenal choice. I love Kenjiro Suda. He voices Overhaul in My Hero Academia, and he's one of my favorite voice actors right now. Just pitch perfect casting for him, for Brahm. The relationship between Brahm and I forget what the little girl's name is. What is it, Aya? I think. I really thought that weird comedic / dramatic dynamic was really fucking fun. Although I will say her voice actress was a little iffy. Like, one of the few instances where I'm like, the voice acting could be a little stronger in some elements. Yeah, these two seasons were definitely worth catching up on Bungo Stray Dogs for. I will admit, I think Taku Iwasaki is starting to mellow out too much, to be honest. Like, the composer, he's like one of my favorite soundtrack composers. Soul Eater, Gurren Lagann, JoJo Part 2, and of course Bungo Stray Dogs. And he's got this great way of just mashing genres together, like classical, rock, rap, and hip-hop, and jazz sometimes. The way he just blends stuff together is really fun. And like, his stuff was competent in these seasons, but it definitely didn't stand out in comparison to like other tracks. Like, there is no like standout tracks in this particular soundtrack, which is something I always look forward to in Iwasaki soundtracks. There is no Libra Me from Hell. There is no Gotcha in the Name of Love. There is no fucking Il Mare and whatever that operatic track was in JoJo Part 2 where Caesar dies. So it's still competent, but I think he needs a little shot in the arm, a little bit of a inspiration. Maybe give him something to work on besides Bungo Stray Dogs. Speaking of people who have been stuck with Bungo Stray Dogs, Taku Iwasaki is still good as an incredible director. Fucking incredible shot composition. Although I will say, he really milks the two characters standing off in a wide shot moment. He uses that so much in this season, in these 2 seasons, and every single one of them looks really good. Like, his use of color, his just framing, and just his balance between the dramatic and the comedic, that nice edginess that he brings to his productions. Just, I wish he was making other things besides Bungo Stray Dogs, but now I'm finally happy I got to see more of him. The action scenes in this were incredible. The character designs were just so damn good. I really like the square-shaped iris of the character designs. Like, it's like a rounded square, or I guess more of a rounded diamond technically, but just really damn cool designs. Yeah, I could go on forever about all the different cool characters in this, like Fyodor's whole thing with Dazai in this, and how menacing he is as a character, like Sigma's journey toward very accelerated journey towards self-actualization. I will say Atsushi kind of got the short end of the stick in this one, but that's only because he was surrounded by so many other cool characters. And also Akutagawa. Like, I think Akutagawa has significant real estate in the 4th OP, and then he doesn't show up at all in Season 4.
So that was wild. And then, like, he had some cool moments here, but otherwise kind of underutilized. Again, just because there are so many other characters taking up the spotlight. So I don't think I would necessarily... I guess I just wanted more content from this season, from these seasons, I guess. Like, it did feel a little rushed in spots, but otherwise, damn good time all around. I'm very happy I decided to jump back into Bungo Stray Dogs to experience this.
Alright. Bungo Stray Dogs Season 4 and 5 are done. We're going to scroll pretty decently high up in the list into their top 10, I believe. I'm going to put it right under Suzume in the number 8 spot. And we're going to give you a decent 8. I would say that, like, Season 4 was like a light to decent 8, and Season 5 was definitely like a strong 8. That was some good stuff.